We're at the federal building on the corner of Wilshire and Veteran, where over 1,000 scientists, researchers, and supporters have gathered to protest the cuts.
I came here today in defense of science. I believe in the science that my lab does, and I believe also in my students, in their tremendous potential. And I believe that as a society, it's really important to invest in science from an economic and health perspective.
Protesters came from across the Southern California region, with researchers driving miles from USC, UC Riverside, UC Santa Barbara, and Cal State LA.
We're crushed. I mean, otherwise we're just burned out. It's just so awful. You read the news every day and it's just one thing worse than the next. So, you know, we gotta unite, we gotta find each other and try and build some hope again. Because after the election, everything went quiet and we were waiting for some sort of leadership to come along, and nothing happened. So here we are, UCLA is doing it themselves.
The crowd was protesting funding cuts to the NIH, CDC, FDA, FEMA, and NOAA, which fund research ranging from microbial infections to tornadoes.
These things are being picked apart by someone we didn't vote for. Elon Musk and his Doge associates are causing just disarray and chaos. And I think the federal government has stood back and let that happen, and damage will not be easily reversed.
In recent months, researchers have had funding cut and grants stalled.
We have received letters telling us that if investigations discover that we are studying anything relating to diversity, equity, or inclusion, that our funding would be cut. We've also had the experience of having grants that were submitted quite some time ago not being reviewed.
Despite judicial rulings stopping the federal funding freeze, Sandmeyer says the government tried to get around the rulings by blocking the publication of the Federal Register.
Now the Federal Register is starting to publish study sections, but now the federal government has blocked the federal council that meets after that to finally approve funding. So colleagues of mine, thousands of scientists, have had their funding suspended, don't have any idea of whether they can plan to go ahead.
Grant proposals that contain words often relating to DEI, but as broad as female, have been flagged for review.
So if you're studying, for example, sex or gender differences in mental health outcomes, I've seen in my lab's research and in others, women, for example, are at a greater risk for Alzheimer's disease and some other types of diseases. Your research might not be funded in the future simply by virtue of doing that.
Protesters were energized. As guests gave speeches, participants wrote letters to their representatives and made signs.
A lot of cars are passing by, you can hear it, and they're all showing their solidarity with us, and it's really incredibly encouraging. I would say if you're worried about the state of our union today, coming out to one of these marches.
Carter finds the number of scientists who turned out to be especially indicative of the magnitude of the problem.
One of the perks of being a scientist is you can be a real introvert. So the first March for Science I went to, it was like a librarian convention. We were all just really quiet, and we gave way to traffic, and we were very polite. And I thought, no, we need a whistle, we need a loud noisemaker. I brought my own noisemakers.
For Silvers, the loss of research funding hits close to home.
My daughter was born completely blind since birth due to a very rare genetic disorder. When she was first born, her geneticist said that he didn't anticipate gene therapies for several decades of her life. Last time we met with him, he did say that there'd been so many advances, he expected her to be able to be a recipient for some kind of gene therapy in the next 10 to 20 years.
The demonstrators said they hope policymakers listen to their concerns because the cuts have had real consequences for their community.
Their careers are interrupted. Important research programs for cancer immunotherapy, for drug-resistant bacteria, all these things are being brought to a screeching halt because of the senseless way in which they approached making the government more efficient. It's chaos, and we don't need chaos.
For the Daily Bruin, I'm Davis-Housefield, reporting from the walkout in Westwood.